I've been, I've invited someone I know from a couple other meetings I attend to speak for us today, and I have heard his story before, and it's um, a good one, and I'd like to hear it again. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Sonny from Southern California.
Thank you, Bridget. Sonny, addict of mind-altering substances, and I guess I'll start off with a little history there. It's a little bit different, but again, it'll be the same for some people. Anyway, my parents were raised as Orthodox Jews, but after they graduated college and served in World War II, by the time I was born, they were secular Jews. What that meant is they didn't belong to a temple, and my religious training was pretty limited. Now, my parents, they were responsible adults. They worked as professionals. They actually were very light drinkers, but they were kind of busy on their own agenda. Even though I was the only child for the first 6 years, I probably didn't get a lot of attention. And when I did, it was positive. I don't carry any negative resentments. I don't have, I don't have memories of put downs from my parents. But again, I probably, although I wasn't neglected, I didn't get a lot of attention. And that probably left a little gap in my personality. And I just developed my self-centeredness at a pretty early age. And growing up there too with my parents, who ended up divorcing. My dad was working out of town. And when he was forced to move back in for a year, that was the end of the marriage. And my dad remarried within a year, and my mom had to go to work full time, kept her busy. Also meant that she didn't attend too many meetings. When I acted up in elementary school, she wasn't there. And I'll try to be brief. And even in elementary school, though, I remember, I kind of was on my own. I stole money from her purse because I could. She didn't notice it. I didn't have anything to buy with it, but I was 9 years old. I cut school. I bought a pack of cigarettes out of a machine. They were only 50 cents back then. I didn't like it. I threw them away. But, I was, I guess I could have to ask myself, why would a 9-year-old want to buy cigarettes and smoke by themselves? And this is a type of, like I say, the self-centeredness, I guess I already had in an early age. I grew up, my dad had a lot of social skills. My mom's weren't that bad, but my social skills weren't super great. But I didn't have self-hate, but I was jealous of people who had greater social skills. And in high school, though, after I quit the football team, I went to work, and I got a good connection for pot. And all of a sudden, I found the key to popularity. Having probably as good a weed as available in Queens, New York at the time. And my mother was going to classes, she was going out. So pot parties every night. All of a sudden, I had lots of friends. I had invitations to parties, and I became very popular with certain people, but at least I felt super cool. I had a few bucks in my pocket. My mom also, I was interested in, she had in her medicine cabinet. I mean, for a while, even she saw a doctor to lose weight. So I had, they had black beauties available to me too for a while, which I took advantage, I tried out. I learned about the drugs she had and tried them all out and liked them. But in any case, when I got to college, Um, I became, I became another sand shark. Instead of being a big fish in a small pond like I was in high school, socially, as the bad guy. In college, I was just another sand shark. So I started tripping, eventually got into heroin, but the heroin at the time was relatively weak. 7% was the strongest available in New York City. I was upstate New York, so I didn't have, it wasn't quite that. I did develop an addiction, but 2 days of withdrawal with a mild flu was my withdrawal. And I also was broke. The dealer was pissed at me because I had owed him money. So I ended up having to drop out. And I didn't have money though. And again, I wanted dope, but I didn't have the money for it. And I wasn't at least physically craving for it. I would just, if I had the opportunity and the money, I would get it. Ultimately though, I left New York City, moved to Denver, and I had, I guess, the expectation that I would be able to get drugs again, and I would be able to have the same type of life. I didn't, and I took up with the wrong people. I was in an apprenticeship program. I took up with the wrong crowd, and within a year, I'm sitting in Adams County Jail, facing a felony charge for second-degree burglary. I was ashamed to call my parents. One of the guys I worked with, though, actually put up his house to bail me out. He was a Vietnam vet from Wisconsin, was married, college graduate, but he liked the New Yorker, I guess. That's what he said, why he put it up, and he became my mentor. The good thing about this, I never learned the 12 steps, but at that point, I recognized the fact that I was going to graduate to prison if I kept the same lifestyle, or I had to start looking for people who had positive goals and start taking responsibility for myself. And with my mentor and a good probation officer and a good probation, I started doing that. I finished the apprenticeship program. I re-entered college again, this time taking it seriously, got good grades and started looking at a career. And I was clean and sober for, a good 4 years. At the end of my time in Denver, though, I started after success also encouraged my arrogance. So I would start hitting the bars after class, and also, I had the arrogance of I didn't appreciate the things I had, but I thought I was entitled to them. And that affected some relationships, of course. Fortunately for me, my next chapter in my life, I went to grad school in El Paso, and nobody drank. None of the grad students drank. Nobody did drugs. I was clean and sober there, and I had the most success of my academic career at that point. Instead of hitting the bars, went out looking for wild creatures, and I had an interest in herpetology, had a nice, and just we'd go road running, hitting the roads, looking for animals, recording stuff. And anyway, that worked out great. I got my degree. I published some papers with my professor, but then I went to the next grad school chapter was in California, and my office mate, one of them, was a chem grad student, and he was making MDMA, known as ecstasy, but I was more interested in the other stuff he was producing, pure methamphetamine, which I was very comfortable with, and that was enough for me. And the addiction kicked in. I made lots of mistakes, made bad decisions, but I never put myself in real jeopardy with the law again. I did not want to see the inside of a jail again, but I did waste lots of opportunities, made stupid decisions, wasted money and stuff. And I left myself impaired because I wasn't dealing with my disease properly. Ultimately, I ended up in UCLA, and I did get a degree, but I failed my doctoral program. I failed it. I made poor decisions. I didn't consult with anyone. Again, my own self-centeredness led to my limitations. I wasn't a total failure. I got a second master's degree, but again, the self-centeredness bit me in the ass and left me, with failures. Anyway, though, fortunately for me, I had a good relationship there, got married, and by the time I started working, instead of as a college professor, I was working as a teacher. It was easy to get a teaching credential for me. That was not that hard. And at that point too, I didn't have access to drugs. I wasn't actively looking for them. So I would drink every night. And for about 35 years, that's how I would get high. It was my reward for the end of the day, was alcohol. I didn't have the allergy. I didn't have alcoholic blackouts. I didn't drink in the morning, but the reward of the day was my drink, make dinner, eat, stuff myself. Anyway, at that point too, I'll mention this because I think teamwork is important. When my first son was born, I had grown up to 230 pounds. And even when I was young and I was taller, I was pretty overweight. At that point, I remember my mentor had told me I'd got to take care of myself. He was an athlete. And my professor suggested I try something called Student Run LA, which trains students to run the LA Marathon. I saw it won't hurt. And I started doing that. And I was able to take off 50 pounds. And also I recognized the fact too, doing this, I was part of a team. And I had to present a positive example to the students. So not only did I have to be in decent shape, I also had to run with them. And I did this for about 15 years. I'm mentioning it to you because I think teamwork is a big part of recovery. And the Student Run LA was a team that was helping me stay in shape and keep relatively sober. I still drank, but instead it was, half a bottle of wine instead of a whole bottle of wine a night. And even when I had to run the marathon, I would drink just one glass, and the teamwork worked. Ultimately, though, after doing it for 15 years, new principal wanted his buddy in charge of the Student Run LA. So I started putting on weight. I also started looking for other substances, people who had pills, which was my natural inclination. Make a long story short, I retired successfully but I was always a functioning alcoholic. I didn't realize that, but I picked up a habit. I picked up an addiction to some pills I bought over the counter in Mexico. I was living in Los Angeles, a 2-hour drive. Every 2 months, I can go score more of the pills. They were a weak opiate, but it was enough for me to get an addiction. And I remember the third day of withdrawal, I felt bad enough. I had the worst depression of my life. I actually confessed to my therapist and my doctor that I needed help. At that point, my addiction was exposed. I got, I forgot the name of the drug the doc prescribed for withdrawal, which actually I got high on. It was that good, but my wife found out about it and she had me booked up for rehab. in Lake Arrowhead at a place that actually it was good because it treated, called the Serenity Lodge. It treated people like adults. I didn't have to share a room, and being old like I was, I got my own bathroom as well. And I was very angry being sent up there. But it took me about a day still in the detox center. I looked at the fellow clients, and they were varied. Speed freak, heroin addict, and old school alcoholic. I said, I belong here. I've got the same disease they do. I've been an addict my entire life. It's an incurable disease. I'm going to have it till the day I die. I saw the steps for the first time up there. I actually read them because they had them posted. And yeah, my life, oh, I wasn't in the sewer of my life, but my life became unmanageable enough that I'm in rehab. And I was there for a reason. I belong there. At that point, I saw step 2. I said, damn, I better change things in my life. I better change the attitude I have. I was, and my brain is still, I can think of negative things easily. They come natural to me. Sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're not, but that type of attitude also helped perpetuate the self-centeredness. And I realized if I want to deal with this disease, I didn't know anything about recovery. I had to change. I had to learn a new way. And the steps, I looked at them. Yeah, they had God in them, but God didn't bother me. I guess because of my background, it wasn't that important. I recognized I was a minority as a non-believer, but I've always, so what? That's life. And I learned that I better be a positive person. The Serenity Prayer, I really appreciated. It was like brilliance to me hearing it the first time, because I would find something which I felt I was right and someone was wrong. It would piss me off and I would react to that. Sometimes creating more problems, sometimes just getting extra high, but the wisdom of just letting go of stuff I can't control, not approval, but acceptance. And with that too, I learned the other stuff. I read the big book and we did the exercises, went over the steps at the rehab. Also, they had St. Francis prayer. I was amazed just because it gave a positive response to everything I might encounter. That sure as hell wasn't me, but I said, if I want to be a different person, I want to have a positive attitude, I've got to start thinking about other people and trying to live in a way where I was positive. No more, no more negative self-centeredness. And it's a daily struggle. It still is. That's the point. I'm never going to be cured of my self-centeredness, but I developed a routine. I actually include, my morning begins with prayers, but I'm praying to direct my attention to what I want to do each day, how I want to be positive, when I encounter things that set me off, I want to know how to control them and let them go so they don't ruin my day and cause further problems. And I want to, when things go wrong, out of my control, I want to have a mature, rational response instead of getting mad and using it as an excuse to use. That's how I lived most of my life before. But in any case, I came out of rehab with a routine. I felt very comfortable at AA meetings. I felt welcome there. And I actually, even though my disease is addiction for all substances, nobody told me you don't belong there. And I guess because I did drink every day for 35 years, I do qualify as an alcoholic. But the program has been working for me each day. I've got to, I said, I have to stuck with routine. The only thing different I do is something that Jeff Munns mentions in chapter 6. I have to take, my first priority has to be service to myself. I have to take care of myself. I have to go to doctor's appointments, whether I like them or not. When my blood test shows I was in danger of diabetes 2, I have to cut out the sweets that I was eating and change my diet. But I did. It was pretty, I had a choice. Start taking some new drugs with side effects or better control my diet. And each day I do that. And I also do physical activity, which is a big blessing to me. Never used to use that word before. One of the things I do is I'm out with I have a medium-sized dog, 70-pound lab mix. I take her out at least an hour and a half a day. And when I'm out with her, it's her time. I stop when she wants to smell another dog's urine. That's her business. It's not for me. I used to rush when I walked her because I wanted to go home and get high. Now I let her take care of her business. I stop when she wants to stop. I let her drink water out of broken fountains and things. I try to serve her because she serves me. She's somebody who is always happy to see me. And I appreciate that. And I want her to be happy to see me, to keep being happy to see me all the time. And I see that as part of the training of just putting someone or someone else besides me. The other thing the second important service I have is service to family. Both of my sons have learning disabilities. The older one is high functioning and actually graduated college and has a job. But the younger one is severely autistic. He's never going to be able to take care of himself. But I love him and I have to serve him as best I can. So that's usually the first part of my day, my mornings. I usually don't go to morning meetings because I'm taking care of making sure he has his breakfast, making sure he's properly clean and things like that. But that's part of the deal too, taking care of family. The third service is community, and the fourth is my recovery team, which includes all of you. That was the force stronger than me was other people I can learn from who have dealt with the problem I have. And it's very similar. I ended up writing my own steps, but they're similar to the humanist steps. Since I'm here and being recorded, step 1, rigorous honesty. We admit we lost the power of choice regarding drugs and alcohol. The disease has taken control of our lives. We accept that we must seek help beyond ourselves to achieve sanity and sobriety. Step 2, faith and courage. We turn to our fellow men and women, particularly those who have struggled with the same problem, and form our recovery team. Integrity. Make a personal inventory focusing on anger, fear, resentments, and selfish behavior. 4, willingness and hope. We ask trusted, experienced friends how to best deal with our problems and accept the help they give us. 5, justice and forgiveness. We make a list of persons we have harmed, including ourselves, and do all we can to make amends without causing further harm. 6, perseverance. We continue to practice daily self-reflection and make amends whenever necessary. 7, spiritual awakening. We enjoy life. We choose and use whatever strengthens us and nourishes our spirits. 8, service. We practice gratitude and humility over the course of our day. We are ready to help our family, our colleagues, our community, and the fellowship in recovery. That's what I try to do each day. And it's barely, 2.5 years, but it's been working. And I learned early on in my first few months was going down to Mexico. My wife sent me to a drugstore to pick up an antibiotic for her. I saw the drug that I was addicted to up there for sale for $12 for a big bottle. And I said, damn, I could take home several of them. I was thinking about it throughout the day when I was in Guadalajara with her as a tourist. Fortunately, I was attending English-speaking AA meetings at night. And I attended the meeting and that nipped it in the bud. That was the last time I thought about taking home drugs I buy in Mexico. I'm so grateful for that. Also on that same trip, I had my selfish behavior at this pre-wedding party. Everyone was getting drunk and I wanted to go back to the hotel. I was pissed off and behaving inappropriately. The next day I attended another meeting and damn, I've got to remember my selfish behavior. Nobody else, it's just going to create negatives. I was grateful I had, a meeting of people who understood. And by the time I came home, I recognized I can't go a day without a meeting. And with Zoom, I still hit about 15 a week, at least 2 a day, and they're necessary. Number one, it reminds me of the incurable disease I have. And number two, it also reminds me that I've got to work on my recovery every single day. I can't just let it go because things are going well. And along with that, if I want to be recovered, I have to listen. I have to be ready to learn from other people because that's what my recovery is really based upon. That's the closest thing I have to a higher power. It's a very strong power, but it's not mystical. It's not supernatural. Anyway, I've spoken long enough. I'll shut up. Thank you for opportunity to share.
Thanks, Sonny. So great to hear from you. And thank you so much for